Hello, hello everywhere. Hello.
Hello,
Hello.
hello on all the
Hello,
platforms.
hello, hello. 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 Okay, I'm done. Sorry.
Okay. Hi guys, it's your Airsoft mom and dad here. We're here to talk about Airsoft stuff and all the important things that you care about in Airsoft. I posed a question on Instagram yesterday asking what you guys want me to talk about in this week's live stream. And the response was overwhelmingly that you want to talk about gatekeeping because it is definitely an issue in Airsoft. And I will say, I think it's an issue in pretty much every hobby, really. But first off, let me just go ahead and define gatekeeping for you guys, because I know not everyone.
I was like, what? I don't understand. Even I was like, I don't understand what gate.
There's lots of gates.
Are we talking about gate titans? Are we talking about the gate in the front yard? Go ahead, sorry.
So, according to Urban Dictionary, a gatekeeper is one who devalues others' opinions on something by claiming they're not entitled to the opinion because they're not qualified, the rightful decision maker, part of a particular group. So I will go ahead and give an example of that. And the example I'm going to give is when I first started playing Airsoft at American Milsim Broken Home 3, I think it was my first ever Milsim. And some people that have been following me found this unicorn helmet at Walmart when they were on their way to the AO, and they brought it to me and dared me to wear it during a game. And I did, and people got so mad at me, and there were like all these comments talking about how I don't have any right to wear a unicorn helmet and blah, 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 blah. That's an example of gatekeeping. So these are people who thought I wasn't taking Airsoft seriously enough, and I should therefore be punished for not taking Airsoft seriously enough. That's an example of gatekeeping.
I also want to point out, I remember when you got this, you went on a helicopter gun run and you were wearing this. And I personally thought that was hilarious because it was like, I was on the ground and I just, look up and in this helicopter shooting at everyone is a girl with a unicorn helmet on. Like, that's pretty hilarious.
So I was wearing it and shooting at people, and I was looking down, and people were like flipping me the bird, and like,
you're ruining my immersion.
Yeah, I ruined all the immersions that day. So I'm really sorry to everyone whose immersions I ruined.
How dare you?
Yeah. I kind of get, so we'll talk about like the pros and cons. Like, I do kind of get the people that get really angry at people for ruining the immersions and why they want to kind of be gatekeepers for that. And there are people who do a lot of research. They spend a lot of money on kits. And you definitely can ruin the immersion, which kind of ruins the overall experience. And I would compare that to like at a Milsim West game that really emphasizes being immersed in the whole thing, and they really emphasize kind of the LARPing aspect. And so it is definitely important not to take away from all of the time, effort, and money that people have spent, and not to kind of like trash it. But at the same time, you should be considerate of other people when you're trying to gatekeep, I guess. So my kind of point is like, don't be a jerk. If you're going to, if you want to point out something that someone's doing wrong, just do it in a thoughtful or considerate way, because maybe not everyone is as invested as you are, or they might just not be aware. I know that was my biggest issue when I first started playing.
Let's start with monetarily, because I think that's the biggest challenge for a lot of people is monetarily they're not able to be as invested as someone else.
Yeah.
So if you let's take a look at the disparity between, like someone who's trying to do a casual fun, or someone who's trying to have a casual fun time, and then someone who's just like heavily invested. And there's different levels and different productions that you can attend to attain that certain level.
Mm-hmm.
So let's kind of go back to like, okay, so when you wore this thing, that was an AMS game. And AMS is kind of like that. It's a good, I feel like it's a good balance between like you can super duper immerse yourself or you can just kind of be lighthearted about it.
Yeah.
There are definitely a lot of people that I saw at AMS games that just had kind of the bare minimum. They had like a green t-shirt or green shirt on with maybe like tactical pants and maybe a chest rig. And then, you know, at that same game, I would see a dude in a complete multicam, you know, 275 Ranger kit with like everything was spot on. And like, yeah, that's the same event. So like obviously we have one guy who's like not as invested, but maybe he wants to be, and then the other guy who is completely invested. And for either of them to be like, no, you shouldn't dress like that, is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's just,
I would say American Milsim games are a really good example of a middle ground where you have the people that have spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on kit, and then you have people that are playing their first Milsim ever. And so that is an example of a game where you need to be considerate of new players as well as veteran players.
Yeah, and the format of that game also coincides with that as well. Like an AMS game, like each game only lasts a few hours, so you're not out there for that long of a time. So there are spans of times where you're on the field, and then smaller increments when you're not on the field, and then you could just leave the field if you want to.
Yeah, or you could be on the field all day if you want to.
Yeah.
And then we also have like super entry level Milsim, which would be DesertFox events games, and that is, you can't really get mad at anybody for winning your immersion there because the
immersion is whatever you want it to be.
The immersion is we're all here to play Airsoft and wear silly costumes, which is something that I really enjoy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. The other thing too is take into consideration the background of the game. Like every game has its own lore or background. Mm-hmm. So DesertFox events, it takes place in the future, and everyone's a corporate warrior or a mercenary. Essentially, everyone's just mercenaries, which is kind of the same plot, I think, to the new Call of Duty. I don't know. I don't like Call of Duty because I don't know. I just don't like that shooting game. But I'm pretty sure that's the storyline for that game. AMS is a mock civil war between COST and UFS that takes place in America. Don't know exactly what the time frame is, but it's an American civil war per se, or at least that's how it's kind of personified in the storyline. And then Milsim West is a fantasy ground war between NATO and Russian and other, like, I don't know what block of countries that would be.
Any Eastern Bloc, really.
Yeah, any Eastern Bloc kind of country. So there's definitely productions that can fit or meet whatever immersion or style that you want to play.
So I also want to talk about, there are good examples of gatekeeping. So for instance, we'll talk about the pros and the cons of gatekeeping. If you guys have dealt with gatekeeping personally, feel free to put it in the comments and we'll talk about those different situations. So one good thing, or one thing that I think is necessary in gatekeeping, is sometimes people do kind of need to get put in their place. And you can do that by offering constructive criticism. And what I mean by that is people that have never played Airsoft, or maybe they play Airsoft twice a year, but they spend a lot of time online talking about everything they think should be done or what they think should be happening. Those people don't have a good frame of reference, and they don't really know what they're talking about. They're just kind of like living in this fantasy world that they've constructed where they're not actually doing anything in real life. So if you, for instance, are one of the people that are like, I've watched 14 Travis Haley videos and I play Airsoft twice a year, let me give you all of my advice on what you should do in a game. You're probably not the best person to be giving it advice, and people really shouldn't listen to you. And I think it's okay for people to be like, hey, when's the last time you played Airsoft? Or what kind of experience do you have to back up these statements? I think is completely okay. What do you guys think?
I mean, one thing that I kind of see a lot of, and I was guilty of this, is just giving input when no one really cares to hear your input.
No.
I try not to do that anymore. Like 2021, I'm just trying to be positive in 2021. There's so much negativity circulating
right?
through Airsoft and
through the world in general.
I'm not trying to. I know I'm not above it. I'm guilty of a bunch of wrongdoings, just like a lot of other people on Airsoft. But at least I can acknowledge, like, okay, yeah, I was probably a dick. Let me not do that again. So 2021, I'm trying to be more nice and more considerate to people. And I hope that other people will also kind of take that into consideration as well. So if you are someone who likes to just force your input on people, just think for a second. Just think to yourself, like, does this 14-year-old kid need to hear my rant about I don't know what, like, that's his Lancer tactical gun, or how his plate carrier is not to spec for his supposed MARSOC loadout or something like that. Like, sometimes people don't care. Maybe it's not a relevant topic to somebody.
Yeah.
So,
and we're not the like end all be all, and we're definitely human, and we definitely make mistakes. We're not perfect, and we're not saying like these things we're saying is not set in stone or anything. This is just a discussion, so you guys are welcome to give us your input, and so we want to throw that out there as well. Mm-hmm. But I would like to go back to someone had put in a comment on Instagram speaking about it, was an example of it would also be people that make fun of other people for their gear, for like having cheap gear, or maybe like not knowing what they're doing. And that's dumb. Like, I mean, especially for people that like...
Most people don't know what they're doing on the field.
Right, exactly.
Sometimes I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just standing around like, well, I don't know.
So something that I really hated when I first started playing Airsoft was when I would go to games and people would get super moto and shout out like military commands and stuff like that. And I've never served in the military, never really had a desire to do it. I just like LARPing. I like playing like cowboy and Indian games. And so when people would be shouting all these terms at me and I had no idea what they meant, I was like, why are you yelling at me? I'm sorry. I'm not. This isn't the military, guys. I know I even had to have that conversation with you. Like, I don't know what this means. Can you please like explain it to me first before you like have a meltdown? Which, yeah.
I think that's well. Okay, now
going. Yeah, like Neon Scott said, some people take the game way too seriously, and I think it's definitely easy to do, especially when you get all caught up in like you're in your world, and it's easy to forget that this is just a game. And so, I mean, we've all had meltdowns at one point or another.
Yeah. So one thing that I like to do now, at least, like after years of being that guy that's like, we need to take, Alpha Squadron around the right flank and get into this defilade, blah, blah, blah. Like, you can't force anyone to do anything in Airsoft. Right. In the military, you can, because we have pay grades, people are responsible for other people and such and such and such. In Airsoft, it's literally just a free-for-all for anyone. So if you find yourself in this weird situation where there's like someone barking orders, you can just walk away.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to listen to these people. I mean, sometimes people have some good ideas, and you'll know when they do because they'll take the time to explain what they want to accomplish, how they want to accomplish it, and hopefully take the rein and lead people to that. That's how you can determine whether someone is worth listening to or not. If you hear someone just being like, we need to push the right flank, everyone just needs to go now, like, obviously that's not really a plan. That's just someone barking orders, and you don't have to listen to that.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing to point out is, and thank you for doing that, is you don't have to listen to those people. I know that when I first played, I would get overwhelmed because I would hear like the people that are taking it way too seriously and standing in the back yelling at people, and I would be like, I'm sorry, what am I doing wrong? I've learned now that like, oh, I can just ignore those people and nothing happens because this is all a game. And I think that's also important to realize.
Yeah, you don't really see it in my videos, and I don't know. I don't think it's conveyed very well, but I actually don't. I try not to give orders to people. I try to be like, hey, could you possibly, or if you could you try, and like if you like, I've had people say no, and I go, okay.
Ooh, this is a good one for Pat. My first Airsoft team was very strict and elitist. At the time, I felt lucky to be on such an advanced team, but the pressure to win from leaders led to poor sportsmanship on the team.
What is winning in Airsoft? Like, there is no...
Everyone has their own definition, but I agree. I think that is something that happens pretty easily on super hardcore teams, like teams that are like, we are going to be the best team. Everybody, because there are those people.
It's all subjective. Everything is subjective. Like, okay, you're going to be the best. You'll be the best milsim team. Like, what does that entail? Like, anything could be a small victory. Like, we're gonna move as a squad and take this hill. Say there's no enemies on the hill and you just take the hill. Like, okay, you won. You're the best Airsoft team ever. You planned this. You planned this movement and accomplished your objective. You're a winner. Like, okay, like there is not really any actual winning in Airsoft. I mean, the only thing that we have close to that is the speedsoft or speedqb tournaments, where they have a rule set and like it's a tournament based thing and they actually have winners. How quantifiable that is, I have no idea. DesertFox Events has a quantifiable scorekeeping app. The Blue Fox tracker that keeps score and we can actually have definitive winners, but like at the end of the day, no one's getting a trophy from DesertFox Events. I think they get trophies for SpeedQB, but again, like I kind of feel like that's subjective too. And when we've already seen a bunch of people complaining about that format online. Not to say that it's bad. It's another direction for Airsoft to go, and it's great. But I don't know.
I mean, people are going to complain regardless about everything.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yes.
As we've seen, a lot of the comments are just like, winning in Airsoft is everyone has a good time and share stories over drinks or dinner. Mm-hmm. That's a good one from Kenneth.
That's how to be a real winner.
Tom, did you shoot your gun? You won. True.
I'm a winner today. Time to go home.
But yeah, I do agree with Pat saying that like it is easy too when you're on those teams to like, there is a lot of pressure from people to overperform, and it might lead to more cheating sometimes, or it can be known to either lead to cheating, or it might not. You guys might not be cheating, just you're well known, and so everyone automatically thinks you're cheating. That's pretty common. Another con that I also wanted to talk about is, and this kind of goes back to people taking Airsoft too seriously, and that is people yelling at new players instead of like teaching them. So for instance, I would say like a good example of this is if you're just at a local field, and this is something that you always see at local fields, is pretty common. And that is people that don't know the 4 rules of firearm safety. And so they're walking around with their fingers on the triggers all the time. They're like flagging people with their barrels. They may be shooting in an unsafe area. When they're shooting in an unsafe area, I think that's the time when it's okay to like yell at someone, because you need to get their attention really quickly. So that way you make sure that no one gets their eye shot out.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the times where you should kind of intervene, is when someone is being unsafe. Like, I was at SC Village last weekend, and we walked by this group of paintballers, and there was 2 games going on, and this guy just had his mask on top of his head. And one of the airsofters that was in like the group that we were heading to the field was like, "Hey man, put your goggles on. Like, there's people actively shooting everywhere." And it was funny because the guy who had like the paintballer who had his mask up, like, ignored him, and then the guy was like, "Yo man, like, it's a safety thing. Like, put your goggles on. Like, there's literally projectiles flying everywhere." And after like being like, humph, all right, fine. Like the paintball dude put his mask on. Now that's an example of like good gatekeeping, because
Right.
even though that guy was angry, it's like he would like that airsofter was actually trying to, you know, do him a favor, because who knows, what if he got shot in the face?
Right.
You know, like that's just if it's safety related, yes, you should definitely intervene. If it's not, then it's questionable.
But that was also a good example, because the person was like nice and then escalated the situation from there, which is kind of what needs to happen, because it was a huge turnoff to me when I first started playing Airsoft for people to be yelling at people for doing something wrong, like screaming at them, like veins popping out of their forehead, screaming at them. And it's like an 8-year-old that's like, what did I do? They're like crying. That's, I mean, an 8-year-old is exaggerating, but 13-year-old or 15-year-old gets really upset. And there's no reason for you to be like that. Yeah. Absolutely no reason. You can educate someone without being a dick. It's totally possible. And this is Airsoft. We're not in a situation where someone is actually going to die. So keep that in mind. You can educate them, but also keep in mind we're at an event where everybody is playing with toy guns, and keep it chill, bro. Yeah, I think another good example of like when you could intervene or could possibly offer help is when someone is having technical difficulties, like a gun problem or something. Again, another example at SC Village, there's a kid who ran into the same like building that I was in, and he was just letting his AEG rip. But I mean, I could hear that he was just dry firing, but he had no idea. So I had to be like, hey, I don't think you're shooting any BBs. Maybe you should shoot this wall in front of you so you could see it. And in his head, he didn't understand. He was like, shoot the wall. And I was like, yeah, just shoot the wall to let's see if BBs are coming out. And then he goes, oh, okay. And then he shoots the wall and nothing's coming out of his gun. So I said, okay, are you using a high cap? And he goes, what's a high cap? I said, give a windy thing on the bottom of your mag. He's like, oh, yeah. Okay, spin that. And so he spins it. Spin that high cap. Yeah, spin that. And then I'm like, okay, shoot the ground now. Shoot the wall again. He shoots the wall. No BBs coming out. Still like, okay, do you have more BBs that you could put into this high cap? Can you reload your magazine? And he goes, oh yeah, I've got another magazine. So then he pulls his other magazine out and reloads it, and then he starts shooting. So like that's a good example of like, try to be nice, try to be more objective. About what you're trying to do, and don't be like, you're not shooting anything. Like, how do you expect to hit anybody? God, freaking noob. Like, okay, like this kid just needs a little bit of guidance because he has no idea that he's not shooting BBs. So that's just one way of going about it. I think that's a really good point, is be objective. And that's something that I try to do as much as possible too. And that's something that you taught me, because I can sometimes be emotional. I mean, we all can at some point, and we all get a little worked up, but it's important to remain objective most of the time, because that's where you're going to get the most respect. And it's much easier to talk to people if you're just being objective rather than being accusatory or whatever else. Moving on, let's talk about, this is the most common thing when it comes to gatekeeping, is people shaming other people for not liking their brand of Airsoft. Or like, I like to refer to it as like, you don't like my Airsoft kink. Whether that be like people that want to take Airsoft really seriously and think that the Airsoft should only be people that do strict military impressions, or it should strictly only be people that are playing pickup Airsoft and gear doesn't matter, and people that are impressionists are stupid, or they're like, speedsoft is the best, milsim is stupid, all of you guys are stupid.
Yeah, like I think a lot of people forget it goes both ways. Like speedsofters go, oh, we're the you should airsoft like us because it's not cringy military. Like, well, I mean, you guys just look like paintballers. So like, but I mean that's also being subjective.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so what? Okay, so you want to run around in a dye mask and a hoodie? Cool, man. Like, I personally don't want to play airsoft like that. I am a military enthusiast, so I want to be more military sided. So maybe you're younger and you don't give a crap about the military. You want to speedsoft. Like, why should I try to shit on you in that way? And then like vice versa. Like you said, like it's it's just like airsoft kink shaming. Like, who cares?
Don't kink shame, you guys. That's really what it is, because like, for instance, I really like the LARPing aspect, and so I like any of the open world games or the insurgency games. That's my favorite way to play airsoft. But I know that that's not everybody else's favorite brand of airsoft. Some people want to take it very seriously, or some people want to play a different way, and that's okay. And the important thing to remember with that is the more different styles of playing airsoft that we have, the more airsoft can grow. So, for instance, like the biking community, bicycling, there's all different kinds of ways of you can be a mountain biker, you can be a road biker, you can be sorry, I don't have like a lot of comparisons, but there's like a billion kinds of different like bicycles you can buy.
Roadie, enduro.
Yeah.
They basically, the point is they all have their own niches in bicycling, and they all make fun of one another. And it's like, but you're all just riding a bike.
BMX, yeah, like
BMX. Like, it's the same thing in airsoft. Like, okay, so what? Everyone is just here to play toy gun shoot 'em up. Like,
right.
Let's all just keep that into perspective, and actually everyone can get along. Like, okay,
yeah,
I'm gonna shoot my toy gun at you. You can shoot your toy gun at me. We're having a great time.
So the important thing I think to take away from that is the more different kinds of airsoft there are, then the more likely it is to cater to a wide range of people. And the wider range of people that we have playing, the more diversity we're going to have, and then the more innovation we're going to have. So, for instance, we'll get new kinds of if we get more people playing, we'll get not just another M4 guns. that could actually be a reality if you guys stop airsoft kink shaming. We could get different types of guns. We'll probably get lots of new types of gear. And based off of, for example, I'll give this example. So DesertFox Events came out with the Blue Fox Tracker app. Now people are starting to make chest decks specifically for phones. So that is a piece of gear that adapted to a new trend in airsoft. And I'm sure there are lots of new we could give lots of examples of how guns or gear have evolved to fit the different styles of airsoft that we play. There are, G&G made that paintball gun looking airsoft gun with the drop stock. I can't remember what it's called. So that's kind of my point, is the more people we can get to play and the more different styles we can have, the better it is for everybody involved. Let's check out some comments. Everybody's saying hi to Scott. Hi, Scott from US Airsoft. Here's a good one from Kenneth. I see a lot of gatekeeping in regards to MSW groups. People shit on a guy who has gray shop kit just because they're trying to get started and may not have known where to look for better gear. I agree. That was something that I didn't like when I first went to my first Milsim West game, and it was something that I was like genuinely really nervous about, was purchasing all the right kit just so that people weren't shitty to me. And so that kind of goes back with what I was saying with, there are people that spend lots of money on kit and guns and gear, and they spend a lot of time doing research to figure out what is the appropriate kit so that way their impressions can be accurate. And so I understand where those people are coming from. And if you're at a game where everyone fits the impression, and then someone has made absolutely no effort, it looks bad. And frankly, I think it looks bad on you as the participant that made no effort. And so I understand why people, I guess, shame them for not having the right guns or gear. But the important thing is you also need to help those people, because you got to show them, here are some routes to go. So I understand that you want everyone to have your same airsoft kink and have all the right kit and everything like that. But you also need to give them the tools to be able to get that stuff. So I'll give a good example of the grommets. I did a video on them a few weeks back, and they have what they call the gromble, and that is a document that has all of the different types of kit that you'll need for each style, all the styles that they run. They have links to everything that you'll need. They have descriptions of like, they have reference photos in there. They have rules in there for how they expect everyone to act. And so I think if you're going to be in that brand, then you need to also help people be on your level. Otherwise, you're just going to like run it into the ground, and you're not going to get any new players because they're not going to want to come back.
Yeah, I think another example that we should address is also some of that stuff is also subjective as well. Like, I did a video on this actually when a West Virginia game, a Milsim West Virginia game, and GMR basically just showed up just looking like GMR. And that made a lot of people angry. However,
yeah,
when I talked to the GMR guys about it, like what's the reasoning behind this kit? And they said, well, this is a militia kit, right? And this is supposed to take place in like a contemporary time period, which there's nothing to prove that otherwise. Like, why should militia only be relegated to gear from the 80s? Like everyone just has this like just kind of tunnel vision idea of how an Eastern Bloc fighter should look like, but they're all from like kind of like a dated period. So I mean, who's to say like, yeah, they wouldn't have better looking helmets and night vision and other types of rifles. So I mean, while it's not the vision that a lot of people think about, it's something that like, okay, this in reality could be true.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Is you can't get tunnel vision when it comes to that kind of stuff, because airsoft is ever evolving and the game types are ever evolving, and so you have to be able to evolve with it. And if you can't, then you're probably just going to be one of those people that gets mad and rage quits airsoft and spends the rest of their time crying about it on the internet, like most people. Sim asked a question and also donated. Thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it. He wanted to know, what is the favorite military impression kit that you both have done? Mine would be the España loadout, and that is because it was the most comfortable. It was essentially Spanish gear or Spanish camo. It's a digital woodland. And then the Mark II, the Tasmanian Tiger Mark II chest rig, along with the G36. That was really fun. That was a fun kit to do, just mainly because it was so light and relatively easy to do. I'm just a fan of any impression kit where I don't have to wear a ton of gear, and there aren't that many out there.
I don't know if I have a favorite impression kit. I think in terms of a loose impression, just the Russian stuff is nice, but I mainly just like the Russian stuff because that gear is built mainly for comfort. One thing that I've kind of realized between Russian and American stuff is like American military stuff is geared for mainly protection and also to like kind of look good. Like, we're kind of like the modern day Roman soldiers, and if your soldiers all show up to the battlefield and like they look well equipped and if the more well equipped your army looks, I mean that's a big psychological thing. Like, if you saw a dude show up and he's got body armor, a helmet, a grenade launcher, and this giant gun, you as like the poor fighter are going to be like, how am I going to how can I defeat this guy? Like, they've got this flying box in the sky that's just going to drop a bomb on me. And one of the things, so U.S. military stuff is like a lot about appearance. When it seemed like a lot of the Russian stuff was built for comfort and for like just being out in the wilderness for a very long time, or at least being able to maneuver and be sneaky and stealthy. So that's kind of why I liked a lot of the Russian stuff. But in terms of like actual impressions, I don't really have a favorite. I guess I just like stuff that's comfortable and easy
same.
to move around, and looking cool is also great. But
yeah, I would say you're probably more on the looking cool bandwagon than I am. I'm more on the comfort, look like a hobo bandwagon.
I mean, realistically, the first 2 hours of Airsoft is a fashion show.
All right.
I mean, you see even at like SC Village and other like local fields and stuff, everyone shows up to the staging area, and you're like, "Ooh, what kit does that guy have?" Like,
yeah, everybody puts on their kit and walks around for like an hour.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, like not bad, because a lot of times you can gain inspiration from other people's kits. There's times where I look at someone's setup and it's like, oh, that's a smart thing that they've got going on here, or like, oh, that's a innovative way to use that piece of kit or something like that.
True, that's a good point. Let's see, Nash donated $5 super chat. Thank you so much, really appreciate it. And he said he met us at Ballahack a few years ago and asked if we are ever coming back.
I don't know, just travel in general right now, along with events.
Ever, yes.
Yeah.
We don't know when.
Yeah, as of right now, just everything is just kind of up in the air.
Yeah, especially with the situation in California right now. Is in Southern California and where we live, all the ICUs are at 0% capacity. So, and we have like the tents out in front of hospitals. We're at that point now. So, we're kind of locked down at the moment, and who knows how long we're going to be in this state of lockdown. We'll see. So as far as like plans for the rest of the year, everything when it comes to traveling is pretty tentative right now, just because we don't know realistically what we're going to be able to do. Let's see. Here's one thing that I want to circle back to that I saw was a comment on the Instagram posts that I made when I was talking about gatekeeping in Airsoft. And one of the people said that something that's common is sometimes veteran airsofters have this like sense of superiority that they give off. And I think that's definitely accurate. And I think it's also important that we need to give ourselves and each other reality checks sometimes. Like, hey, maybe you're a little too into this or getting like a little overboard. We are all a bunch of people playing with toy guns. And for like the people that think that they're better than other people because they have spent tons of money on guns and gear and research and whatever, that's great for you. But that's not what everyone wants to do. Like, not everyone wants to get in Airsoft and spend lots of money on guns and gear. That's not something that I enjoy. I don't really like spending a lot of money on anything. I'm pretty frugal. And so having the ability to spend a lot of money on stuff doesn't make you better than anyone else. And it doesn't make you a better Airsoft player either. It just means that you might not make the best financial decisions.
Or you have a lot of disposable income. Hey, who's to say?
Yeah, true. One or the other. Like, that's good for you. Just keep in mind, whatever it is, guys, like, I think we just keep circling back to this, is just don't be a dick. Like, we need to start treating each other better, especially now during these insane times in America. We need to have a lot more respect for each other all over. And that means like, just stop being rude to people, stop making assumptions about people. If you have an assumption about someone, maybe bring it up in a compassionate way and talk to them about it, or bring it up in an objective way, like what you were saying. I think that is one of the most important things we can do right now is if you have an assumption about someone, you should probably talk to them about it rather than talking behind their back or like making a huge deal about it. Yeah. And I think that's something that is a reason that people do a lot of gatekeeping, because they see someone doing something that they don't like, that doesn't fit their what they think is cool or
it doesn't fit their narrative.
Yeah, it doesn't fit their narrative. And that's okay. And we need to be a little more accepting and tolerant of other people's what they want to get out of Airsoft, and maybe talk to them and find out why they like doing this. Yeah. Like we'll see people. I think the best example of this is when you go to pickup games at Airsoft fields and you see people with like Nerf swords or speakers or I don't know, any random assortment of just weird stuff that you see on the field. We've all been there where we've seen someone with like just like something really that we personally might think is weird. But I think if you talk to them about it, it will help you get a better understanding about it. And maybe, who knows, maybe you'll even be interested in it. So like, for example, going on that, I never thought I would really be interested in doing impression kits. I always thought that those people took Airsoft way too seriously. And then I did one and I realized how much time and effort and money goes into that. And I can appreciate their stance a little more as to why that brings them enjoyment, because it is rewarding in one sense to do a lot of research and to have all that research pay off and like come together in something that is very aesthetically pleasing. So just be cognizant of that, I think is something that's really important.
Yeah, especially if you have like a team and you all match, that's cool, but that doesn't give you all, it doesn't warrant you all being assholes to everybody else just because you all look cool or match or something. Like that's just how you guys want to play. Like personally, I have a team and we'll go to pick up games and we'll all dress the same and have radios and stuff. But like, that's mainly to enhance our own experience. We're not trying to deject from anyone else's or anything or any other kind of negativity like that. We're just doing this because like, this is how we want to play Airsoft together. And like, that's the number one thing that you should probably keep in mind is like, okay, I'm here with my friends. We're going to have a fun time by doing these things. And that's it. We're not going to try to force our opinions or force any of our outlook onto other people. Yeah.
Yeah, that's super important. Is basically you just need to don't force yourself on people, guys. That should be right in many ways. That can be taken many ways, but that goes without saying, guys. Don't force yourself, whether it be physically or your opinions, onto other people because nobody likes that. Mike Kill donated $2.99. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Adam King donated $5. I'm wanting to buy a gas blowback rifle. Any opinions on what brand would be a good choice? I'm a KW fan, but hear mixed reviews.
I see nothing but good stuff from GHK, especially their AK-74U.
Ooh, yeah.
I have been KWA at the beginning of 2020 at SHOT Show said that they were coming out with an with CO2 powered LM4 magazines, and I've been waiting for that. I would love to get another LM4 with CO2 powered mags. I really wish that every gas blowback platform from here on out would just switch to CO2. It's a little bit more reliable. You get more shots out of it. Yeah, although it's a little bit dirtier unless you get CO2 that has silicone in it. But just overall, it seems like CO2 as a power source is going to be better. Again, that's something subjective. Someone's probably already reading out. But yeah, hopefully those CO2 LM4 mags come out. But in the meantime, GHK makes a good GBB. Elite Force, the Elite Force MP7, the 1-to-1 scale is also really good. Yeah. I've had mine for several years now, and every time I pick it up and use it, it works flawlessly.
There really aren't a ton of gas blowback airsoft guns to choose from. I feel like. Well, but that's also because that's just not my scene too. So
yeah, there's a good number. It's just like a lot of them just kind of crap out over time. Like WE, oh my gosh, it's just so hit or miss with anything WE sometimes. Like,
yeah, don't buy a WE rifle at least. We haven't had good experience.
Yeah, like some of them are great, and I see people being like, I have my WE forever, and it's amazing.
Yeah, true.
I had a WE Scar, and I couldn't get it to shoot straight for more than 2 feet. Like it was, I hated that thing.
I remember. All right. I think that pretty much wraps everything up. We have been streaming for like almost 45 minutes now. So let's go ahead and you guys can put some questions and we will try to answer questions for like the last 5 minutes. And then we will wrap it up and log off and figure out what we're going to do for dinner. I don't know. What are you, pizza?
I just want something simple. I kind of want to kind of go back about the whole military or being a veteran or military person and going to a field and kind of taking your experiences or some of your knowledge from the military and applying it to airsoft. I will say it's kind of 50-50. Like maybe your obviously your basic weapon handling and knowledge of simple tactics is definitely going to help on the field, but there's a lot of other things that like apply in the military world but don't apply in the airsoft world.
True.
Like ballistics, logistics. I talk about
talk in the corner. Hey buddy. This is code, sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Oh my goodness. Here comes the Fetty knot. People on Instagram can't see that, unfortunately.
No,
it's great.
Sorry if you're on Instagram. Got the Fetty knot in the corner.
Yeah. I talk about this in a video too, where like there's a million people held up in a building, and in the real world you would just bomb that building, but in airsoft everyone's got to go toe to toe and fight it out. So like that's when kind of military stuff is negated. But if you are a veteran and you're going to an airsoft game and you want to help people, just be kind of nice about it. Again, like I said this earlier, like give people more direction and a little bit more purpose rather than just being like, go right. Like,
yeah,
you know, the 14-year-old kid, he's just going to go right. And then like, that's it. He's not going to know anything else than just go right. Like give them a purpose, give them a plan, and help. The biggest thing is help execute the plan. Now that doesn't mean like sitting in the back and yelling at everyone, but like, yeah, maybe hang back a little bit and maybe guide them. What I like to do personally is if I see an opportunity to help a group of people, you know, I'll go to that group and be like, hey, would you guys care to like do this maneuver so that way we can accomplish this thing? And then be like, okay, you are going to go to this piece of cover and we'll cover you. And then you are going to do this other thing and we'll do that. And then once that's all completed, then we'll move forward or we'll go from there. Like it's a much easier way than just like, all right, listen up, you're going to go to the right flank and brrr. Like that's not going to help anybody.
Yeah, totally
and
agree.
You're making yourself look like an a-hole.
Totally agree. I saw, here's a comment that I thought made a lot of, that kind of goes with what we were talking about for food. Speaking of food, what kind of food do you bring for long milsims?
Oh, good question.
Yes. So we both like to bring...
We have like an assortment of stuff. So a main meal we'll get... we don't do MREs. I personally am over MREs, but we try to get like these microwavable meals or whatever. Obviously, we don't have a microwave, but the ones that we get come in like this plastic pouch, and then you could just take that pouch and boil it in water over your jet boil. They're
called pace ready meals, and you can get them in like the. They're usually with like your canned meat area, sort of.
Yeah. Or you can get those meals and then like put it into like a pot or something and then cook it that way. It's just a lot tastier compared to an MRE. And then we also bring like other smaller snacks that we can just put into pouches or pockets or something. So like Leo was saying like cheese sticks, fruit snacks. We don't do bags of chips. Don't do that. That's terrible. It takes up a lot of space and then they always get smashed. One thing that I really like to bring.
Pringles are okay though.
Yeah, Pringles are good. I do that sometimes. Yeah. I'll bring a tube of Pringles. Another thing that I like to bring is like mixed nuts, so like cashews and roasted peanuts or something like that, because that's real small and easy to carry around, and it gives you a lot of calories. What else?
Cashews or peanuts or like a trail mix is really good because it has it has all the stuff to give you energy. So like almonds and peanuts and stuff like that will help give you energy, and they're like good kinds of protein too for you to be eating. So trail mix is a good example of something, because then you get your salty and sweet, which everybody wants. At some point, you're going to be craving one of those two things.
on Instagram, Bad Nate Jake. I just eat cold food grumpily for all the Milsims. So do that. Heat something up, man.
Yeah. Eating a warm meal definitely increases my morale. So if you can just find anything like a pre-made meal that is microwavable, that you just can put in the microwave, package and all, those will usually work for a milsim game, because you can like put it, package and everything into your jet boil or whatever stovetop thing that you have. Those work pretty well. I like doing those or using those, because Grim Reaper, what's your favorite patch on the wall behind you? Whoa. I don't know.
I can't even answer
we
that.
have
There's so many. There's too many to have just one favorite one.
Yeah. I love all of my patches equally. Okay. Well, I think that should wrap this stream up. We have been streaming now for 50 minutes, so that's a long time. It's time to go figure out what we're going to eat for dinner. So thank you, everyone, for joining in on this stream. I'm going to try to keep doing these live streams, if not once a week, every other week, but on Wednesdays. So make sure you're subscribed and you have notifications, so that way you can join in for the fun. And then if you're watching this later, then feel free to leave comments on what your thoughts are, or what you think we should talk about next time, and what guests I should have on. And keep in mind, the guests will probably have to be at my house. So we'll figure out something. Mike Kill donated $9.99. Thank you so much. You're the man, Mike. Those are 2 donations. You're great. You're the best. You're all the best. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. You're all number 1. We'll see you next time. Bye.
For everyone on Instagram, you get